final piece, you'll need to make sure you've got a ruler, a pencil, a sharp one, if not have a sharpener now, a rubber, a black pen, or just a black writing pen. We need to look at previous works like 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, and 2-point perspective where you can see the roof, so that's sort of from a bird's eye view, you can see the roofs there. And also, if you want the real challenge, 3-point perspective. So you choose one of these to redraw in your own way. First, you're going to be creating the horizon line, and then you're going to add on your vanishing point. You need to look back at your drawings to see what is more successful, and you also need to look at the marking grid in your folder to see what will get you the most marks. If you can do 3-point perspective, you'll need 3 vanishing points, and you will then be attaining the highest marks in that column. If you do 3-point perspective wrong, or you're not confident in it, go down to 2-point perspective where you've got 2 vanishing points. Or if you find this a very challenging topic, then stick with 1-point perspective, but do it well. Now you'll notice here I'm starting to draw my 2-point perspective, and I am lining it up to vanishing point 2 first, and then lining up my building with vanishing point 1. I'm going to speed this video up now, as I have already gone through 1, 2 and 3-point perspective in other videos I've made on YouTube. If you do want a reminder, go down and click on my name underneath this video to then find those videos you need for 1, 2 or 3-point perspective drawings, and you're going to be creating your own cityscape using either 1, 2 or 3-point perspective, but you're going to be making it a bit more your own. So you might want to have your own shop names, you might want to turn it into a block of flats, you might want to have a whole street, it might be quite suburban with lots of trees, or you might choose to have quite an industrial cityscape. It is up to you, but do not forget to check back at that marking grid to see how many marks you can get for 1, 2 and 3-point perspective drawings. You are then going to start following those videos and drawing your own final piece. If you'd like to work larger, go A3, which is a double page in your sketchbook. If you are a little bit slower working on these, then stick with A4, but turn your page landscape. I've noticed that all of my buildings here are above the horizon line, which means that I can only get a few marks in that drawing column. Now, if I was to now draw a building next to the middle one that is below the horizon line, I can then get higher marks. You can see this on the marking grid in your folder. If I can see the rooftops of a couple of the buildings, then that will get me higher marks because I am understanding a more advanced skill. So I'm then going to join the corner of the roof up with the opposite vanishing point to create that rooftop. And already just by doing that, I've gotten more marks for the drawing column. Next, I'm going to draw in a bit of detail, a bit more complex. It's going to be an alleyway, so I'll leave a gap between my buildings, and then I'm going to join up the side of this building with the opposite vanishing point for the top and the bottom of that building. I'll then rub out any obvious guidelines and then draw back in my horizon line and start to add in detail to my scene, such as pavements, roads, windows, doors, shop signs, street lamps, road signs, bus shelters, and so on. Anything that is closer to me or lower down the page or more central to the page is going to be a little bit bigger. So for instance, my lampposts are going to be taller, my road markings are going to be longer, my doors will be bigger in the middle than they are towards the edge of the page, and for the tops and the bottoms of my signs, my doors and my windows, I'll be using the vanishing point for that side. So the ones I'm drawing in now, I'll be using the vanishing point number 2, which is on the right hand side, and for the windows and the doors, the shop signs that are on the left hand side of the page, I'll use and line up with vanishing point number 1, which is on the left hand side of the page as well. As you can see, I'm now putting in my shop signs. So this one's going above the shop. It's going to be a sign that stands above the building. I can then put in some signs that are stuck on the sides of the buildings, on the front, like the Pets R Us one. I can have them labelled for clothes shops, food shops, superstores, takeaways, you name it. They're going to be your shop, so sign them how you like. You can come up with your own names, or you can use the ones that you can see around your area. But you're going to make it a little bit more personalised. Just remember the tops and the bottoms of the signs, like the doors and the windows, must line up with the nearest vanishing point. Now, this is your final piece, so it's not mine, it's not anyone else's. I think once you've drawn your buildings, you should make it personal to you. Now, this could be through the shop sign, or a theme that represents your interests, or where you've been on holiday, or where you'd like to go. In a minute, I'm going to be drawing quite a surreal scene, so things in my foreground are going to be interacting with my buildings, sort of like T-Rex in that film when he is amongst the buildings causing carnage and destroying things. It might be that you like a particular culture, or you want to represent a place that you've been or you want to go, for instance maybe Spain or another country. It might have a theme to it. It doesn't have to be surreal like mine's becoming. It's entirely up to you. Just put in a great amount of detail. I'm now going to put in some cacti, so plants that are seen quite frequently in the desert. My cacti are going to be getting larger the further down the page they become, because they're getting closer to me, so I'm using perspective with that as well. If you've got something that's larger in the background than it is closer up to you, then that's not going to work, and then you'll lose marks for that, so make sure things in the background are smaller. I've added a little bit into my background and in the sky. We're going to be coming back to that next week, but for now we're going to be looking back at the work from last week, where we looked at Lizzie Mary Cullen and how she uses a huge variety of patterns to fill in her buildings. Now you'll see that I'm doing it here in pencil. That's just so I feel confident before adding it in pen. It's entirely up to you if you would prefer to start using black pen, or if you want to start and be cautious with pencil, but I'm dividing my buildings up into multiple sections, so I've got different patterns in the same building. I'm using some of the patterns that I can see in my work from last week, but if I need some more, I can do a quick search now, or I can come up with some more now. I can also repeat some of my patterns as well. Also consider whether you are using a thick pen or a thin pen, which is why I start mine in pencil, just to make sure I'm happy with it before using this pen permanently. I'm then going to consider whether I'm going to use thick lines, thin lines, if I'm going to be doing them larger or small patterns. A little hint, the larger patterns work really well with the buildings that are in the middle and so closest to you, where the smaller patterns work really well the further away they are to you, so on the buildings that are furthest away and in the background. Showing inspiration from Lizzie Murray Cullen's work, where she uses just monochromatic patterns, we are also going to be doing monochromatic colours, which is black and white. So we are going to have this whole final piece just being black and white, which actually does look really, really effective once it's done. Now we are finishing it next week, so don't feel like you're in a rush to finish today. I just want you to make sure your buildings are really, really accurate. You've got a sharp pencil and you're using a ruler at all times. With these patterns, if you want to start with a pencil, then start with a pencil, but it's really important that when we start adding the pattern in the pen, that we've got a black pen, like a writing pen. We don't need a Sharpie, we don't use any thick board pens, we keep it nice and neat with a writing pen, so just like a biro. It would be good for you to start adding some patterns in today into some of the buildings. Not all of them. We are going to be continuing this next week, so make sure that whatever you do today is accurate and not rushed. We will be coming back to it next week. Any questions, do give me an email and I'll see you next week.